It's not a zero-sum game. One of the reasons people are reluctant to talk about these real issues of boys and men is because they think it will somehow distract from or diminish the ongoing need to work on the issues of women and girls. Women still only earn 84 cents to the dollar. 25% of our members of Congress are women, fewer than in Mexico, United Arab Emirates. Obviously, happens to a female president. My wife was trying to raise money from venture capital, so I'm contractually obliged to say that only 2% of venture capital money goes to female founders. So for the love of God, like, is there still stuff to do? Yes. And there's a bunch of stuff we need to do for boys and men too. And anybody who tries to say that you have to choose, that by caring about boys and men, you've stopped caring about women and girls, or in order to care about women and girls, you have to not care about boys and men. They are not our friend. Ignore them. Shut them out. Don't read their stuff. Don't listen to them. It's like saying to the parent of someone who has a son and a daughter, well, which one are you going to care about then? It's batshit crazy, and that kind of polarizing, zero-sum stuff has created a gigantic vacuum in our culture and our politics. Don't do it. It's not zero-sum. Turning in your chemistry homework is an incredibly difficult thing for a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old, especially if they're a boy. You have to be in class when it's set. I am talking about you, Bryce, yes. Be in class, paying attention, make a note of it, remember later, make a note of it, having remembered, decide to do it, rather than play video games. As someone said, let's be honest, it's chemistry homework, so we'd all rather play video games. And then, most importantly, you've done all that. Imagine you've done all that, and you've actually done the assignment. What's the final step? Turn it in. Thank you. Thank you. Just turn it in. Oh, did you turn in your chemistry homework? Oh, no, I forgot. So the point is that actually just GPA measures a bit more of those chemistry homework skills. SAT, ACT, they're measuring a bit more like something more like intelligence. Girls are not smarter than boys. Boys are not smarter than girls. But girls do develop this frontal cortex, which is the bit of your brain that turns in your chemistry homework. That's a bit of a summary of the neuroscience, but it's right here. Turn in your chemistry homework, bit of your brain here, right? And the reason for that is because the growth of that bit of your brain is, to a very large extent, triggered by the onset of puberty. Girls hit puberty a year or two earlier than boys, right? So it's not like boys' fault. It's not the average 15-year-old boy or 14-year-old is younger than the average 15-year-old girl. Well, duh, if anyone has ever been around them, right? But it's not kind of his fault. He's not defective in some way. It's just, there's just a slightly different, someone said, maturity. But we don't mean immature in the eye-rolling way. We mean it in a neuroscientific way. But we have an education system that pretends that this is not true. So boys should start school later. They develop later. They're younger. Give them an extra year. Redshirt them. I know some schools in this area are doing that. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of people online, right? So we have to be very careful not to just lump them all together, right? They're quite different. And I sometimes feel like, when I talk to young men about this in particular, like if they hear an old person saying, oh, I don't know, all these people like Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate and Joe Rogan and Theo Von, and they just lump them together, they're like, what are you talking about? Right? They're not the same. But if you don't know, you don't consume this stuff. All you consume is like the bits that are being clipped for media consumption and the clickbait stuff. You just don't understand what's going on. So what I worry about is more the demand than the supply. The problem is that there are a lot of boys and young men now who are going online for a search to an answer to the question, how should I be today? What does it mean to be a man today? I don't know what to do. My school are doing a really good job of telling me what not to do. But I'm confused. Am I supposed to ask a girl out or not? Am I supposed to be jacked or not? Am I supposed to cry more or less? And so I just think there's a huge amount of confusion and search and lost. There's a lot of lost around. And so that leads them down the algorithmic path to people like Tate. But I'll be provocative a moment and say, we shouldn't be too quick to just say, oh, he's horrible and I can't believe my son's looking at this. What a nightmare. Let's go to a toxic masculinity seminar. Instead, let's recognize the fact that This conversation is going to happen. The question is it going to happen around your dinner table? Or in the classroom? In a good faith way?
Right.
Or is it going to happen online? It's not that it's not going to happen.
Right.
It's a question of who's having it. And I think we've benched ourselves from that conversation, or we have not created enough room for young men and boys to have an honest conversation with them about how they're feeling, including some quite difficult stuff. So my sons, to different degrees, went through various phases of this.
Right.
We got quite interested in Andrew Tate because he was everywhere. For those who don't know Andrew Tate, I mean, you can't avoid him. It's like trying to avoid water if you're online, right? You just can't avoid him. And so I watched some of the Andrew Tate stuff with one of my sons and his girlfriend.
Right.
And we just talked about it. Well, that's horrible. What do you think about that? What does she think about that? What does he think about that? We kind of used it as an opportunity to talk about it. But some parents now, they're like slamming a laptop shut as if their child's been caught looking at really horrible pornography. Right? That's the wrong reaction.
Got it.
You've got to approach this with curiosity rather than with contempt. That is really hard to do when some of this stuff is so horrible. But if we don't listen to our boys, somebody else will, or will pretend to online, and then we've lost them.